So they're gonna fire up, they're gonna get to pushing and bailing, I'm gonna get to filming, and then I'm gonna jump on that sheep's foot and away we go. We'll catch you in a little bit. All right guys, so we are gonna, for the first time in my career, run a machine, a roller I should say, or a sheep's foot that actually has a blade on it. I've never run one of these before, so I gotta reorient myself. So basically in a roller, kind of going over basic functions, parking brake on off. This is gonna be your idle and run speed, which is gonna be full speed. You don't have a throttle in rollers. Typically it's just on or off. No idea what that button does. Turtle mode and rabbit mode. So when you're traveling, you're gonna be in rabbit mode, obviously, and when you're doing anything else, you're gonna be in turtle mode. You have 2 different vibrations, so you can do, sorry, that rattles like crazy. You can do high frequency or low frequency vibrations, and then you can have it to where generally you want to roll forward, vibrate forward, dead roll back, and you don't want to vibrate on a roller when you come to a stop. And so if I put this in auto, that will automatically turn my vibrator off when I start coming to a stop. So I'll show you what I mean here. So we're gonna leave that off for a second. My blade is up. So we're gonna fire up, and there's our throttle, and away we go. Now I'm gonna turn my vibrator on to show you this. So we are well, maybe. There we go. All right, so vibrator's going. Now, when I stop, it's still vibrating. We don't want to vibrate. You don't want to vibrate when you're going from forward to reverse, because what happens is you create a divot, which out here in the dirt it's not that big of a deal, but if we were doing finish grade over there, or we were, heaven forbid, doing asphalt, you're gonna pound a spot in the asphalt or your finish grade to where you actually have a dip. And so if we turn this on auto, let's try this again, and you're gonna notice the vibration's gonna turn off until I start rolling again. So we're gonna turn vibrator on. So we're vibrating. Now as I come to a stop, that's why most guys, now it fires back up. That is why most guys will not use the auto function, is because generally, unless you just super slow to a creep, it doesn't turn the vibrations off in time to do anything. So all that to say, that's basic controls. You got beacon, lights, horn, emergency stop. And I will say this, when you run a roller, always wear your seatbelt. Rollers are one of the most, they're one of the biggest machines that are prone to tipping, just because you're stable, and then all of a sudden it'll go over. And obviously this is an open cab, there's nothing to really hold me on here, so I always recommend wearing your seatbelt when you're on a roller. So with that being said, I'm not going to be vibrating. All we're going to be doing is stripping topsoil. So let's get to it. And this thing is loud as crap because that backup alarm is right behind me. I wish I had earplugs, but here we go. By the way, the blade on this is foot controlled, and I am not a fan of that. It is what it is. Here we go. It's hard to keep my feet and my hands straight. I'm not used to a blade control being on my feet. And there is no finesse with this blade, unfortunately. And you can't really see the blade. The only way I know I'm cutting is when there's material rolling up over top of the blade. We might be switching to the loader. I'm thinking we might switch to the loader to strip topsoil, because this is not as easy as I thought it would be. Boy, the hands and the feet thing is really messing with my brain. Alright guys, we're switching to the loader. F this. That didn't work nearly as good as I thought it would in my mind. Alright. Call that good. Rollers. Turns out they're only good for rolling. Alright guys, I'm going to try to remember how to run a D-series wheel loader by case. Because as we all know, case is my favorite, right? Let's see here. We want to be all the way in fourth. I don't remember if I have a selector in this one. Automatic, float on. There we go, that's what I want. Maybe. Oh, I'm aware. Oh, that's why we didn't turn the parking brake off. Maybe. Does it not work? What am I missing here? What am I missing? There we go. Okay guys, now that I've figured out how to take the parking brake off of this freaking case loader, I hated that in the old series, and I always forget exactly how you need to do it. Anyway, we are now rolling, stripping topsoil here. I'm sorry if I'm not talking. I am trying to figure this machine out because I do not remember the D series very well. I spent most of my time in the G and F series of these case loaders. So I'm having to remember what in the F I was doing in this. I think we got her pretty well figured. The other thing is this is an old, worn out machine. So I'm fairly confident the transmission gear selector doesn't work. Or I should say the auto shift isn't working. So, you know, there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. The other thing is the joystick selector doesn't work. Yeah, that sucks, because that's what I way prefer. That's like really lame. Oh, it does work. Hey, look at that. I just had to hit the right button. Woohoo! That makes me a little excited. Oh my lord, it is hot. We got it all the way on cold. Unfortunately, I think she's just not got a lot of Freon left in her. I can tell you the float valve doesn't work, which is to be expected in these old machines. But we're making her work. And sweating our balls off at the same time. And see, it would be nice if the automatic shift would work. Maybe that's it. Maybe. I don't know, guys. I'm totally making this up as I go. It's just one of those days. Oh, maybe automatic is working and I'm just not aware of it. Okay. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. We're figuring her out. So the key, if you want to know what I'm doing, I'm just trying to take a couple, 3-4 inches off the top to get the organics out of here. That way when we go and fill this, we're not filling over top of topsoil, which if you guys follow my main channel, click up above for the link to the main channel. But if you guys follow the main channel, when I was out here last year with Carson and his brother on a basement dig, the reason they were having issues with that dig is because the developer had left the topsoil and just filled right over top of it, which means their basement had a bunch of topsoil and organics in it, which is, really not good. And so to avoid doing that here, we are actually stripping topsoil before we fill, like any good contractor should. Alright guys, here's what's gonna happen, because it's hot as balls in here. I'm flipping the cameras off, and I'm running with the windows open, because I'm dying. So I will catch you guys here in a little bit with another update, after I dump this pile. Alright, catch you in a bit. Alright guys, here is an update. So first of all, I have finally figured out all of the buttons and everything on this loader. So yeah, we've got it dialed in to where we're actually able to hog some material here. And we have totally revamped our strategy. So after taking some shots with the rover, the hill that I was stripping needs quite a bit of balancing done, more so than was previously thought. So what we're going to do is we're going to stockpile all the topsoil from this bank up here, or the slope. Let me point you guys. So all of the topsoil out in front of me is going to go into this pile up here, so we can balance this whole slope, and then we will be able to just push this topsoil back down the hill. And the reason we picked the top of the hill here is because it's a pretty minor balance that needs to happen. You know, we're within a ½ foot, which we can easily make up with some topsoil. We don't necessarily need to bring in clean clay to make up that little of a elevation difference. So we're going to stockpile it up here, take care of the balancing down at the bottom end of the slope, and then we'll just push all this topsoil back out. So that is what we are currently doing. I brought the whole gang over for this one, because that was going to be the fastest way to do it. And this is honestly, stripping all this good topsoil is the more important thing than doing the balancing on the other side for now. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And it's just a rip-roaring good time. This is not my favorite thing to do in a loader. While loaders can be capable dozers, a rubber tire loader is not my favorite for dozing. This is where a track loader would really come in handy. But unfortunately, I still haven't got to run a track loader. There is so much good topsoil on this slope. I was telling Colton, you know, we didn't worry about it over there because there was hardly any topsoil. I mean, it was like a ½ inch, ½ inch maybe. And so it really wasn't worth even pulling out. Like you couldn't even tell there was topsoil in the stuff you're pulling out of the hole. But over here, I mean, we're 10 to 12 inches deep with good topsoil. And that can save them some serious money on the back end of this when they got to come put topsoil down instead of having to bring topsoil in. If we stockpile it now, they got it here on site and they can just throw it back down a couple inches thick. I tell you, I know I've been pretty clear on case loaders, but I'm gonna say it again. This is an old, worn out D series. And now that I've figured out where all of the buttons are and what's going on with the transmission, this old girl's, woo, she's squeaky. She's seen salt, so she's in rough shape, but still, this girl's got power. She can push. She's not the prettiest belle at the ball, but she's got some balls. And this is a 621. I mean, it's not like this is a big old loader. This is just a hair under a Cat 938, just bigger than a Cat 928 or 924, whatever it is. It's hard to keep all the models straight, guys. Cut me some slack. Sweet Jesus. Anyway, that's kind of, if you're curious about what size loader this is, that's kind of where it falls. Between the I think it's the 928 and the 938 is where the 621 falls. And you can see we're pushing a fair amount of material, especially for an old worn out loader. And she will climb too. little bouncy on the way down. Ride control doesn't work, which is pretty typical for these old loaders for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the valve or what, but most of the old loaders, especially if they've been in salt, the ride control typically does not work, has been my experience. And that's from when I sold equipment. It was pretty consistent. Boy, you'd think at 35 years old, I'd know how to take a drink of coffee without spilling it all over myself. It's iced coffee, guys. I'm not an animal. I don't drink hot coffee in 80-degree weather like a lot of these guys in this industry do. I can't do it. I gotta have my iced coffee. So whenever you're running a loader, there's something very important to note, especially in an application where you're pushing. If you're getting tire spin, that means you need to raise up on the boom arms and apply more down pressure. If your tires stop moving and you are no longer moving forward, that's when you need to lift up and get some material off of your bucket. But if my tires are spinning, that means we've still got power to go forward. You just need to apply more pressure down on those tires to get them to grab. So right here, I still got a little wheel spin, so I'm gonna lift up and see, we start moving forward almost immediately, as long as I keep that down pressure on my front tires. Let's see if I can stall her out to where she's not even turning. We'll see. All right, so right there, see, I don't have any wheel spin, so I'm gonna have to, now I'm still spinning, so I'm gonna raise up a little bit more. Gotta get that down pressure. But as long as you got wheel spin, that does not mean you need to shake material. It means you need to increase down pressure on those front tires to get that traction, to get those treads to dig into the dirt. Apply the power forward instead of spinning. And I got out of there quick, so I was out of his way because he's coming in with a load, and if he stalls, or if he stops, it's gonna stall him out and he's gonna have a hard time getting going again. So that was just get out of his way. And you'll notice, maybe you've noticed, maybe you haven't, that I'm squeezing my trigger on my joystick whenever we start to bog. Case loaders in particular, you can set cat loaders up, I believe, with the push of a button, one of your switches over here, but it will not drop down into first gear unless you tell it to. It will stay in second gear, is the lowest it'll go. And so I wait until I'm getting pretty well slow, kind of right about there, and then I click my button and she drops down to the next gear, and that's where you really get your power. Uh-oh, uh-oh. We're almost out of fuel, guys. Uh-oh. I have no idea what they're doing for fuel on this job. I'll have to get out and ask them here in a minute, because I don't believe there is a fuel tank on site, and I don't think Carson's... Oh my Lord, she's b***ing. We're gonna have to shut her down. All right, we'll finish this little chunk out and then I'll park it until we can get some fuel. And we were just having a good time too. Oh, 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 oh. There we go. Boy, she is not liking it, is she? She doesn't like being thirsty. All right, guys, we're gonna park this and I'll figure out our next game plan, because right now I don't have another game plan. So we're gonna play it by ear. I'll catch you guys in a little bit. Okay guys, end of the day. It's right around 5 o'clock. We're not working super late, which I'm okay with. That gets me back to the house at a reasonable hour with the wife and kids who are hanging out waiting for me. Well, let's walk over here and I will show you what we did with our day. So it was a busy day. We moved a fair amount of material for it being 3 of us out here, and one of us is either in a skid steer or that loader, which the loader did decent, but for what we're doing, it's not the tool. So Carson's actually gonna call around and see about getting another dozer out here, non-GPS unit, maybe like a D5 or something, so that I can go ahead of Colton, strip topsoil, rough in some stuff when it's needed between the D5 and the hoe, we can rough in a lot of stuff, and then Colton can just kind of come behind us and dress it up. So Colton, by the way, if you guys aren't familiar, Colton is Carson's brother, and then Ryan is their employee that is working out here with us. So Colton has been running the GPS dozer all day. Ryan's kind of been bouncing between machines like I have, kind of just pitching in with what's needed. So let me spin you around here. What we've got, we did get the road cut down like we talked about earlier today. So this is actually going to drain if we get some rain. Obviously you got some bellies and holes in here that, you know, it is what it is. They've kind of backtracked on their rain prediction, so we're not as worried about it, but it was more kind of cut it down in the off chance it happens, because this is the dirt world. You plan for worst case scenario. So this side is actually, as much as it looks like a disaster, it's pretty dang close to being dialed in. This would be done. This is kind of what started the whole conversation about the dozer. This whole area here would have been done, except for the fact that I pulled him back over to this side to strip topsoil because, you know, the discussion we had earlier about the topsoil balance, blah, 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 blah. And that's kind of what fired off the whole conversation about getting a second dozer, because we could already have this side over here pretty well close to being dialed in to where once Colton was done on that side, all he'd have to do is track over to this side and just kind of dust it off and make sure that we're on grade with the GPS. But unfortunately, we don't have that option because, you know, the loader ran out of fuel this afternoon, so I switched over to a skid steer, and, you know, a skid steer is just not big enough on a 30-acre project site. So, you know. So anyway, that was kind of what we did today. Tomorrow, the plan is we're going to try to get another dozer. We might actually have a haul truck coming, which would be helpful for moving some stuff around as opposed to just kind of shoving it in place. But depending on what happens tomorrow, we're going to start the day by stripping this topsoil, this last little bit of topsoil right here. And then this area I'm standing on and kind of this whole stretch in here is like a 3 or 4 foot cut. So we're going to grab all that material and it's going to get pushed down the hill, because down there, kind of just on this side of that topsoil pile, that is actually like a 7-foot fill. So that whole slope is just going to be much more gentle. So we're going to work on filling all of this area, balancing it out. And then what we can do is we can take that topsoil pile and shove it back out here. And this whole section right in here is going to be done. And then we can kind of leave our topsoil stockpile up here. We'll see what happens with that one down there. We're kind of deciding where everything's going to land so that we're not having to move it 5 times. So anyway, once we get this whole thing dialed in tomorrow, we're going to move down there. We got a retention pond on that side, and we got a retention pond on that side that we're going to start roughing in. So that's where, if we can get a dozer, the dozer and the hoe will go down there. The non-GPS dozer, I should say. We'll go down there and we'll start stripping topsoil and roughing in the bowl for the retention ponds, while Colton finishes up here kind of dialing everything in. And then this kind of front, I don't know, 1/5, I don't know how much this is. This whole front part of the sub that we've been in will kind of be relatively dialed in. And that'll give us a lot better idea of what our balance is going to look like and how much material is going to have to get hauled up here. Because this area right over here on the back side of this little hill is actually, and I'll flash to the print, but that's going to be a material stockpile for all the extra material that's coming out of here. So when we're all done with the land balancing, that will be a stockpile of material that's just going to stay there. So we've got to figure out how much material out of the retention pond is going to move up here. So that's the plan for tomorrow. So that's going to do it for tonight. As always, you guys have yourselves a lovely evening, and I'm going to flash you over to a finish end of day drone shot. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow in the machines. See you guys.